start the show, Dirt Diamond Sports Talk here. I'm Ryan. I'm my man, Wally. Special trade day deadline show. Wally, how you feeling, man? What a day, bro.
You know, I was worried about it until about middle of the afternoon. I thought we were just going to end up with Ramon Arias, and we're going to be looking at this and saying, "Boy, wasn't that fun?" And then all this, because there was a bunch of things going on. Clearly, we'll talk about it more, but clearly Dana had a lot of irons in the fire.
I think so.
He did have, he came up with one really big pickup and one that I didn't see coming, but I really like, and we'll talk about that one later too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a crazy day. The Astros pull off three trades. In big part because of injuries, which we've talked about here on the show multiple times. And I think they filled some slots that they needed to fill. Much needed moves today, I think. So let's move on right into it, man. I mean, the Astros get some much needed pieces and a little bit of nostalgia. I have to admit, the rumors were swirling. There was a lot of talk. Is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Of course, we're talking about Los coming back. Carlos Correa is a Houston Astro again. The rumors were swirling for a couple of days, probably, really. I think kind of behind the scenes, there was a lot of talk about Jim Crane potentially wanting a reunion with Carlos Correa. And then it seemed to be that the rumors were that Dana, whatever the talks were, that the Astros wanted the Twins to pick up a significant amount of Carlos Correa's contract, and the Twins weren't willing to do so. And those talks started to fade away and things started to fall apart. This afternoon, probably lunchtime, I suppose, we started to hear a little bit about some things coming back together. And I will have to admit, the fanboy in me, outside of my analytical side baseball guy, when I saw the tweet hit, when I saw the news hit, I got a little goosebumps, man. There was some nostalgia there. I had some goosebumps. It was really cool to see Carlos Correa's name pop up as a Houston Astro again.
Yeah. When you back up for a second and look at what the Astros were looking for, they wanted hitters, left-handed if possible, that could play second or third, an outfield starter if at all possible. Well, with Correa, you got your third base taken care of. I think the interesting thing is he agreed that he was going to play third base. I personally think his long-term home is in left field because of his feet issues. And it's not as hard on his body. I think third base will be better than shortstop, of course. I think he'll come back reinvigorated. A lot of people are trying to say that his year has been, terrible, but he's hitting 267, 386 with a 704 OPS. Okay, not great, but not as awful as people are making it out to be. I think he's got a 1.0 WAR. And, you and I were talking before we got on camera. People talk about how he's not doing as well. But, when you're in a bad team and a bad situation and the team is probably going to break it down, it's easy to get down and you underperform because people know that, they're people. These players are people. They wonder where they're going to be. Their girlfriend, family is asking, so, well, where are we going to be next week? And they don't know. And that game is hard enough without not knowing where you're going to play, having that kind of uncertainty. And I'm sure it played on him. The most interesting thing I heard about that trade is that I'm sure a lot of people know, but if you didn't, Carlos Correa had a blanket no trade policy. He told the Twins that basically, I'm one out. I don't like the direction these things are going. He loved it. He did love it in Minnesota. He said that he loved it there, but he didn't like the direction the team was going to take. And he had one place that he would go, and that is
Yep.
Houston, similar
Yep.
to Verlander a couple of years ago. He said he would only come to Houston, and they truly traded him for a bag of balls. They traded him for a guy named Matt Mikulski, a left-hander who was originally a second-round pick of the Giants, but he hadn't had an ERA under 6 in the last 5 years in minor league ball. I don't even know why they still have him.
Uh,
But truly, it was like, give me a warm body. You pick one of these 5 warm bodies, and you can take them. And they took that one, probably because he's left-handed.
yep. Yeah, I think, and I guess when it really came down to it, it sounds like it sounds like the Twins are taking about 30% of his remaining contract, or at least for the next 3 years. He had 100 and some odd million
Yeah,
on the
102, and they're
books.
taking 30.
They're taking 30 of it. So, yeah, you're paying $70 million for 3 years of Carlos Correa. Some people say, oh, but his contract is, 7 more years. Everything after the 3 years coming up are all vesting years. So he's got to earn those contract years after the next 3. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think that, he's a former hero here, right? I think what it does outside of the stat specific stuff of him being able to play third and the things that he can do on the field, this team needs something right now to just light a
Yeah,
fire, bring a little bit of invigoration back into the clubhouse and into the stadium. And Carlos Correa is a born leader. I mean, man, the guy, outside of Jose Altuve, the guy was the captain, I guess you could say here. Everything that we know that Carlos Correa did through those years that he was here uh, was exactly what this team really needs right now. It
yeah,
needs somebody to fire this team up a little bit and just bring that energy up.
yeah.
This
No,
team has been playing good despite the injuries, despite all the things. But I think that this is a fireball thrown into that clubhouse.
this team right now feels like about like the team was at the end of last year. Push hard, but just simply running out of gas. You know, if people remember last year, they had to come back from so far back, and by the time they got to the playoffs, no surprise they lost in that first round, because you could almost tell when they had the celebration in the clubhouse that they were truly thrilled that they were there.
Mm-hmm.
This team is running on vapors. They've held it together with chewing gum and baling wire. We say that a few times, but you just look at the guys that are out there. I mean, let's just take a look as the guys who come back. As the guys come back, look who's probably going to be optioned. You've got Whitcomb, probably Matthews, Hummel
Wickham was
might get
already
DF.
optioned,
Yeah,
so
he's already
they already
optioned.
optioned Shea. Yep.
Yep, and then you've got Matthews, Hummel, who will be DFA'd. uh, Trammell or Melton. One of those two is probably going to get that last spot. But these are guys that have never had any continued success, and they've held it together. Now you've got Correa. The other guy they picked up is Ramon Urias, who's another guy for the Astros who's going to be a perfect Swiss Army knife, more of an infield guy than an outfield guy. I don't think he's ever played the outfield, so I expect Dubon to play more outfield. Expect him to play some, fair amount of center field, and then Jesus Sanchez, who they picked up, who I'm really excited about, is going to be a left-handed left fielder, and he's a left-handed bat the Astros so needed. Urias, I think, has 1 more year of control. Sanchez has 2 more years of controls ARB eligible after this year. So what Dana's done is he's put together some controllable pieces in places that we need and maintained the integrity of the farm that's coming up, which is actually starting to get better.
It seems that way. It seems that way. One of the pieces that everybody was kind of really hoping for was another arm. A lot of talks about Dylan Cease, a lot of talks about Alcantara. Kelly's name came up a little bit. It seems as though the Astros were more involved in talks about Cease than anybody else. And those fell apart seemingly because Dana told the Padres to pound sand.
Yeah.
It sounds like the rumors are that they wanted either Bryce or they wanted Eric Eddy. And Dana said no to both of those and told the Padres to pound sand. So the Astros went without an arm. I'm kind of okay with that. We talked about this, that we felt as though if they had faith and confidence in these guys that are coming back from injury, primarily right now, Eric Eddy and Christian Javier, that maybe there wasn't quite as much of a need for that arm. And it seems as though the market for an arm like a Cease or an Alcantara was just a little bit too high, a little bit too rich.
Just wasn't there.
Astros. Yeah. And on top
just
of
really,
that, there just wasn't that many of those kind of guys available.
Yeah, no. I mean, when you look at who we've got coming back, you've got Arrighetti coming back probably next week, Javier with him, Garcia probably a little after that, Brandon Walter. Brandon Walter also is going to be coming back. His MRI showed that it was just basically overwork. He's never had this much work. And so he's just, he just kind of needed a rest. But you've got guys coming back to where they, I don't expect any of these guys to log significant innings at a time, because really it'll be next year before these TJ guys are truly back. But you can throw them for 3, 4, 5 innings at a time. Maybe a lot of the tandem starts that a lot of them were so used to in the minor leagues when Luno was running the show.
Yep, I think so. And I guess one of the only real pieces we lost through all of this was Gusto.
Yeah. Do you think I wonder if he realized he was doing an audition yesterday?
Right.
But he was, I felt like after the game, I felt like Dusty. They asked Dusty how guys would be after the game. Says he's good, he's real good, and Gusto was really good yesterday. You and I know the story about Ryan Gusto, but it's worth telling. Ryan Gusto from Broward County, Florida, in high school, he didn't even make his high school team as a senior. Mm-hmm. Check that out. Mm-hmm. He didn't even make his high school team as a senior. But there was a coach that had faith in him and took him to Broward Community College. And as that coach moved on, he took him someplace else, and then he developed, and he caught on in the pros. And, here he is. He's a major league pitcher.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, he's quite a story. It's a little sad to see a guy like him go. Like you said, yesterday was an audition. He threw well. He's done well for this team. He did well for this team, especially in the times that they needed him to. And so,
filled a need.
Very well. So thank you very much, sir. Best of luck to you in Florida. Yeah.
And best of luck in for the Marlins. The worst thing about the Marlins Stadium is it's built where the late, great Orange Bowl it was. And for those of us University of Miami graduates who spent a lot of Saturday nights in the Orange Bowl, it's a reverent place.
Yeah. I'll bet.
Oh,
I
it
never
was
really
great.
Thought about that before. Yeah.
Oh man. The Orange Bowl when Miami was number one, it was loud, man. It was like a huge erector set. People would start rattling, and they've got a bunch of reels on Facebook about it. So those were the
truly
heydays
of Miami football, man. Those were the heydays of Miami
Oh,
football. I remember. That was something. Well, hey, let's bounce around the league a little bit, and let's see. Let's talk a little bit about maybe how the competitive landscape around the league, not just for the Astros competitive landscape, but the league changed. We talked about the Padres specifically in that Cease deal. They ended up keeping Cease. They kind of upgraded too. Mason Miller and J.P. Sears from the A.
They picked up 9 players.
Yeah,
9 players. They picked up Laureano. They picked up O'Hearn. They picked up Miller. They picked up J.P. Sears. They did DFA Maldi. They picked up Freddie Fermin from Kansas City. Those are
Kansas
five
City.
right
Yep.
off the top of my head.
Yep. Cortez and Quintana.
Yeah.
From the Brewers. Yep.
Yeah, they just, AJ Preller did AJ Preller things.
He did.
That dude,
he threw it all on the table, didn't he? I mean,
how'd you like to be in a card game with AJ Preller and Jerry DiPoto and see who's supposed to hold?
Yeah, all in. No, full. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to play poker with those guys because I mean, the talk just a few days ago was, do these guys want to go in? They're what, third in the wild card in the National League. Are they willing to go and try to put this thing together and get back up in there? And they're going to get rid of Cease, and they're moving this and that. And then today pops up, and here you go. The Padres are one of the biggest moving teams in the league. Yeah, pretty crazy day.
Surprised that DiPoto and Preller didn't do a deal together, but the Mariners did do two really significant deals and one kind of under the radar deal. They picked up Josh Naylor for a couple of pitchers. They picked up Gino Suarez for a position player and two pitchers. So their lineups, the lineup tonight is a Rosarina, Raleigh, Rodriguez, Naylor, Suarez, Polanco, Dominic Canzone, watch him. That kid's a good hitter.
Yep.
J.P. Crawford and Cole Young. First time I've ever really seen a Mariners lineup that I can say this is legit. When you get through that lineup after a couple of games, you're worn out. That pitcher's got to be worn out. Yeah, that's a good lineup. Now they play in the Grand Canyon, so it's going to underperform what you think it should. But they only play half those games in the Grand Canyon. So we'll just have to see. And the Rangers picked up Merrill Kelly, Danny Coulombe, Phil I have no expression Moton, and so they hit some things around the edges. Merrill Kelly's a good pitcher. Coulombe's decent middle reliever, and we all, Astros fan know what Phil Maton is.
We know who Phil Maton is. Yeah. The Mariners, Eugenio Suarez. He was, his name was really big around the league as probably one of the top names that a lot of people were really interested in what was going to happen. He was tied to the Astros there for a little while. And so Seattle sent 3 prospects. Some people think that the Mariners paid quite a bit for him. Some people feel as though they didn't really pay all that much, even though he's a rental. They sent their number 9, number 16, and number 17 prospects to Arizona for Eugenio Suarez. I kind of feel, we talked about it. He's a guy that has benefited from playing ball in Arizona. And it'll be interesting to see how that potentially changes in Seattle, in the not so friendly confines of T-Mobile Stadium.
What's so weird about it? Baseball's such a weird game anyway. 2 years ago, they couldn't wait to get rid of Suarez because, he hit you a couple of home runs, but he's a strikeout machine and he's not a great defender.
Not a great defender.
Well,
nope.
We're going to find out how much of Suarez's production was because he played at pseudo altitude in Phoenix. That's a good lineup. Josh Naylor's a good ball player. He's not a great ball player, but he's a good, solid ball player. Caleb Ferguson.
Yep.
We saw Caleb Ferguson last year, like most players. If you ask of these guys what they can do, they'll do okay. Mm-hmm. Caleb Ferguson will get some left-handed hitters out. He's a 6th inning guy. If you're, getting blown out, he'll soak up a few innings for you, a couple innings for you, but don't expect him to be your closer.
Yeah, he's not going to be your closer. Guy. Yeah. Yep. Very interesting. I'm honestly a little surprised that the Mariners didn't do more.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. You're talking about the prospects they had. Those prospects they had are actually higher than most organizations' prospects because the Mariners have a really good system. One thing that one thing that that the Mariners didn't have to do that I'm surprised that someone didn't ask for was that catcher Ford. They've got that top prospect Ford. I'm surprised someone didn't ask for that and get
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
But
Well,
they're good.
maybe somebody was, and that's why they didn't make another move.
Yeah, maybe so. Back though, you talked a little bit ago about not being able to pick up pitchers. Not that we will pick him up, but guys like Ryan Presley just got DFA'd today. There can be guys that get DFA'd in the next month that might be able to help us out or
Well, I
help
mean,
any team out.
Dana's the master of waiver wire and
Yeah,
free agent
he can
toss
pick them
away.
up the scrap heap. He can
He
pick them
picks
off the.
guys up off the side of the road and makes some magic.
So who did you see that did really well and you just kind of said, wow, I didn't think that they'd do this well? And who did you also see and you say, wow, they really spit the bit?
I was a little bit surprised by. I feel like the Yankees actually did pretty good,
I think the Yankees
and
did fine.
and the Cubs. I think the Cubs probably they probably filled some spots too. Willie Castro was a name that was tied to the Astros, and Willie Castro uh, went to the Cubs, and then they got a couple of pitchers as well. Andrew Kittredge from the Orioles, and then they picked up Taylor Rogers from the Pirates. So
Yeah,
I think those were some needs that the Cubs had, and the Yankees taking Doval from the Giants. That was something that they needed to fill. Jose Caballero, um, trying to Bednar. They picked up Bednar from the
yeah,
Pirates,
yeah. I thought the Yankees.
which was good. I think the Yankees did. The Yankees did pretty
Yankees
good.
did. I think the Yankees did okay.
Yeah.
They picked up some. They they picked up some fringe guys.
Mm-hmm.
Bednar's probably the biggest name they picked up. But even Bednar's probably going to be a setup guy. I thought the obvious people you saw the Padres went crazy. One thing is in we were talking about before is what you don't have to win the trade deadline as far as the prospects in order to win the trade deadline. I thought the Baltimore Orioles did a great job of selling, and what they got back is really good. Now we're going to focus on Mike Elias to see that we know he can get the players. Now can he put a team together?
Well, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, right? Just how is the story of the Orioles one of the most frustrating or crazy stories in baseball over the last 5 years. I mean, you've got all these prospects and you've got this farm system that has been ranked at the top of baseball for so long, but it seems like you can't develop these guys either well enough or fast enough and put together a team at the major league level to really sustain winning seasons.
Well,
So it'll be interesting to see what he does with these pieces that he's getting back.
It seems to me as too many times, and even fans, we lose track of this too. Fans can fall in love with our prospects. We don't want to get rid of Bryce Matthews. Well, if somebody comes up and says, "I'll give you Aaron Judge for Bryce Matthews straight up," what are you going to do? And they forget that the farm system is there for one reason only, and that's to develop and make your major league team better. However you do that, if it's developing the players and then selling off your major league players as they get closer to free agency, or trading those players out to get pieces in the major league team, they are there for one. Who gives a rip if Fayetteville won their league or Asheville won the South Atlantic League? Walker Janik's a great example. Walker Janik is probably as close to untouchable of a player as we're going to have in the minor leagues. But boy, somebody asks Dana for the right offer, and they got to have Walker Janik say, "See ya." You don't have to wear orange and blue.
Yeah. Yep. I agree 100%. 100%. So who do you feel fell short? Top of my list there, honestly, a little bit. I was surprised that the Detroit Tigers did not do more today.
Yeah, I thought the Tigers didn't do too much either. They were relying on their internals. I thought the White Sox would try to do something with Lewis Robert. They must think they can fix him, even though they haven't fixed him for 3 years. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the Cardinals sold some people, but the Cardinals are a perfect example of a team in purgatory. They can't figure out what they want to do. I thought the Rockies would be. I thought the Rockies would be a little more aggressive in selling. We talked about it our last show. I thought Mickey Moniak was going to get moved, and
Yeah,
he's a
I'm kind
guy
of
that
surprised that we didn't see much about his name at all.
I didn't see his name come up at all. Well, but I will tell you, the one that takes the cake is just being awful. Are the Los Angeles Angels? They stink. I mean, let's just
Can you
call it what
imagine
it is.
being? Can you
They
imagine being
are
an Angels fan?
they are
Good Lord.
until Artie Moreno sells that team, they're not going to be any good. They're several games under 500. As far as the standings go, I mean, as far as the standings go, they've got to pass. Let's see how many teams they've got to pass. They've got to pass, 4 teams to get into the 3 teams to even get into the wild card. They should have been selling. They should have taken, every expiring contract they had and tried to move it. That they were predictably terrible. I'd hate to be Perry Manassian, the GM for them, and having to work for Marino, but I guess his checks don't bounce.
Yep. Yep. Another one that surprised me, I thought that they might try to do more based on kind of how they've been playing lately, one, and two, how close they are to the 2 teams ahead of them is Boston.
Yeah, they didn't do anything.
They went and got Dustin May, and that was it.
But they've got the red hair going for them, so you ought to be really happy with them. With the red hair,
I guess.
But you don't have his hair.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I was a little surprised that Boston that Boston didn't do more.
Yeah, I would have thought they'd done more.
Yeah, I really felt like they would have too. The Royals were pretty aggressive.
Yep. Royals were kind of buyers and sellers, weren't they?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. So there were some pretty high profile players that stayed put outside of a couple that we've already named. Alcantara, he stayed put. Stephen Kwan. Kwan's name was bandied around a lot and ended up staying. Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen's name was thrown around. He stayed. Who am I missing? Who else? Well, there were a couple of other really big names.
If we missed him, that's we've got most of them. Gallen was one of the guys that Bowden and Jim Bowden and that crew on MLB Network Radio were saying, he's got an expiring contract. They're right. He's got an expiring contract. Unless people just don't think they can fix him, there's got to be somebody out there who's picked something up mechanically about him and said, we can fix him for 2 months. And it ain't going to cost you all that much. Last few times he's been pretty good, but he's there.
Yep. All right, man. Well, final thoughts. And what grade do you give the Astros?
I would give the Astros BB plus. I would say that I would have given them an A had they picked up some pitching. I don't really fault Dana for not picking up pitching because the cost of pitching was so high that it probably would have hurt the team overall. And the Astros are unique with all these arms coming back, that their trade deadline comes up for the next month. Final thoughts as far as how things are going. This the races are going to be outstanding. The Astros have a 5-game lead. The Tigers have a 9-game lead. No other division is any more than 3.5. So there's lots of really good races. Uh, when you're in an Astros situation, if you can win, if you can go 5 over 500 all the way through, back at the end of the way, 5-7 over 500, you really make the Mariners and the Rangers play really good ball to pass you. We'll know a lot after this road trip, because the Astros go to Boston, down to Miami, back up to New York. And so if anybody thinks that Rob Manfred doesn't hate the Astros, there you go.
Oh man, it's the conspiracy against the
Yeah.
Astros.
We ought to
Yeah,
give him I think we ought to give Rob a
yeah,
trash can.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Send him a gift.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the BEB plus. I would have loved an arm, but considering the landscape and the market, I agree with you that I think the better move was a no move. Was to not make a move here. So especially with the if the rumors of Arrighetti and or Bryce Matthews being the ask for a Dylan Cease, I think Dana cooked. I think Dana did a really good job today. He filled the two needs that really this team was looking for. Got a left-handed bat, great outfielder. Got the
All right. We're going to
infield
like
taken
Jesus
care of.
Sanchez.
Having, yeah, I think Jesus Sanchez is a huge pick. Like
People are going to wonder why
he
they're going to
pulled
say,
that
what
one.
were we worried about? Why were we talking about Correa?
Nobody saw that one coming, though. That's the
No,
thing.
nobody saw
When
that coming.
people analyze and look at the job that Dana Brown has done over just the last couple of years, but even specifically this year, and I was having this conversation with a guy in a Twitter back room, and that was one of the conversations that we were having is nobody saw outside of the Correa deal. Nobody saw Urias or Sanchez coming. Dana cooked both of those in the back room quietly. And when you look at how those guys match up with this team, match up with Dyke Park, and fill the needs that this team has right now, injuries and not injuries, really, when you take both of those into consideration. Dana did an amazing job with those two
Well,
guys. And then Crane coming in and saying, hey, we want Carlos back. I'll whip out the checkbook and make that happen.
and
Just the icing on the cake, I think.
yeah. And I think, again, we've talked a little bit about it, but it deserves a reiteration, is that Carlos is one of these guys among these people who still remember, by sheer force of will, he can help will this team to better success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always gave people a lot of crap for saying, the Maldi intangibles, back years ago when Maldonado was here. But I've never shied away from admitting that there is something to that. And Carlos Correa is one of those kind of guys that can bring that to a team. And coming back here after being in Minnesota and
In
just,
purgatory.
oh gosh, I can't imagine how frustrating that must have been for him going from here to there, and now the feeling of coming back, just a breath of fresh air. Man, can I say that when seeing him give the interviews just the last couple of days, and I don't know, I've kept up with him just because of the love that I've had for Carlos Correa and what he's meant, to the team and the time that I've really followed. The guy looks like a totally different dude than when he was here too. Like shoulders, just he's matured. Just looks stronger, and he might just really, really love coming back and seeing those Crawford boxes standing over there again.
I think he likes.
I'm
I think
kind
he
of
likes
excited
winning.
about that.
I
I
think
think
he
I'm
likes
excited about
winning
that.
too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you saw his quote. He said if there's one thing and one thing only about coming back home, and it's to win championships. And so, he that's not something that he ever said about playing in Minnesota. Really, when you say
No,
that at a place like Minnesota, you don't mean it. But when you come home and when you come to Houston, everybody that comes to Houston says that coming here to win a championship because they know they can. And they know that this team and the city is capable of putting together a team that can do it.
it's the standard.
It is.
It's how we
Absolutely.
do it. Everybody
100%.
wants it. The Astros expect it. All right.
100%. Good deal. Well, I'm going to go take a little bit of blood pressure medication before I go to bed because today just kind of did that thing to me, No, anyway, Wally, always good spending time with you.
It's great spending time.
Yes, sir. Until next time, guys, I'm Ryan.
Wally.
That's Wally. We're Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. We'll see you guys.